Now we're going to talk about how to set up a new product code. When you want to set up a new product code, the easiest thing to do is copy an existing product code that's very similar. So let's say, for instance, you want to run this bag. You're going to go ahead and find a product code where you would put the belts in the machine and you want the bags to lay relatively flat so you have some area to pick from. If the belts are too tight and the bags are sitting up like this, you're not going to be able to pick. So let's say, for instance, this belt seems to work out well. You're going to pick, let's say, 3 bags at a time. Then you would put on the head that you think is going to work with it and make sure that the cups line up with the bags. Typically a head is tied to the belts because the spacing of the cups is going to be the same as the spacing of the indexing belt. So once you know what product is similar, now you're going to go to the screen and you're going to go ahead, you're going to have to sign in as a level 5. You're going to have to go in here to product codes and you're going to have to copy a recipe. You'd go through, it's very self-explanatory, just go in copy. Let's say you're going to copy number 1, you select enter, then you decide where you want to place it, enter again, and you're done. So once you've copied and you've got that new product code, you're going to now edit that recipe. So you're going to go in, edit recipe, and select the product. That product, let's say it was number 5, you're going to now, or you moved it to 10. So now you're going to, 10 will already be renamed. You'll go ahead in here and you can add a new description. Add the speeds of the bags coming in, the total speed, and that's used to determine how quickly the merges your bags. Next thing you're going to do is case. Go through the case. You're going to measure exactly what it's shown. Get a tape measure in millimeters, your length, your width, your height with flaps, knockdown length. That's the case. Knockdown length is this length here, the case that's unopened. Knockdown width is this width right here. Flap gap. Flap gap is once the case is, the flaps are put together, is there any gap here? And so you'd measure this gap and enter that. That way the robot, the gantry knows where to pick the case. So you enter that there. Case code is written on the bottom of the case. Next you go on to loading RAM. Honestly, most of the loading RAM you can just leave from the last product code. Adjust as needed, how far you want to push in, how far you want to retract. The tipper, same thing. I would just leave it all the same as it was before. If you have any problems tipping, you could go in and modify them slightly. Next adjustment, conveyors. Conveyors is another easy one. Typically leave them exactly as the last product. Only caveat is merge high speed, low speed. You may want to play with that a little bit, but typically these speeds are going to work for any products you have in there. Robot. These ones are important. When you get to the robot, starting with the Delta and then moving on to the gantry, if you're going to run a new product and you're not sure where it's picking from, where it's placing to, go ahead and first, take a picture of the screen so you have an idea of what they were before, and lower all your pick accels, decels, and speed. Let's say lower them to 500 millimeters a second squared, 500 millimeters a second. Lower all these for picking, for placing, for both the Delta and the gantry, picking and placing. And what that allows you is to safely test the product without potentially causing a collision into an object. Next, also, as far as with the gantry, there's the opening arm. The speed, XL and decel, that I think you can leave typically just leave those alone. They're not going to be, there's not going to be a big danger there. The only, if you have a very big case, you may have to slow down the XL and decel, the opening arm, so you don't lose the case when you open it up. So we've covered case, conveyors, robot. This is for the Smart Track or indexing belt. Indexing belt, really the only thing you have to change on there is the number of pockets. So you count the number of pockets on your belt. And one important consideration is when you're counting the pockets, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is considered a pocket, 8. So then multiply it, there's 2 belts, so you'd put 16 there for that one. Flight offset, you can typically leave that at 0, but if you want to offset where the flight sits when the bag collects, you can change that value. Enter the new belt ID, that's going to help during changeovers. Next is the bag size. This is an easy one. Measure length, width, and height. And you can add the weight there just for information for the product code. All these are in millimeters. Next is your missing product detector. Go ahead and set your high limit, your low limit. That's really all you have to do is set your high and low limit. Now to do that, if you go ahead and get a case, you could go into maintenance for the missing product detector and put it in test mode. That'll lift the scale up. Then you can read what a full case reads, add an extra bag. That would be, you take that weight, maybe, well, you take the weight of a good case, add the weight of a half bag, that would be typically your over. Subtract the weight of a half bag, that would be your under. Obviously, each plant's going to have different, is going to have a different standards as far as that goes, but there's a good rule of thumb. So you've set up your missing product detector. Now next is to set up your case, how the layers are going to sit in there. So how many layers are going to be in the case and how many bags per group are you going to pick. So you've got 3 bags to pick and 4 layers, which is 12 in this, for instance. Number of rows, that's used if you're going to place bags side by side or rows side by side. So you'd place 1 layer here, 1 layer there. On the products that you sent us, we're not doing that, but it's there if needed. Layer height, that's going to tell the robot how far to increment each time. In addition, you can offset in the X, Y, and Z each layer. So if you want to interleave layers, you could go ahead and change the pattern and vary where you're going to place each item. If you were unsure of how you were going to do that, you could go in the robot and look at the coordinate preview. So this is going to show you the direction of X is back towards the infeed of the machine. Y is where the bag, towards the direction the bags fall off, and Z plus is in the upward direction. So use that to inform you on that. Set points of the machine. Those are, once you set up the whole machine, go through and record all your values. So the product backstop, the blank wall, we can cover some of these. So the bag wall, the backstop is going to be typically to allow a product to just sit in there. Then the next one is going to be case blank magazine wall location. Magazine wall location, that is actually, this is in inches, but it's the length of this case. So the length of this, or of the KD knockdown, is going to be set up there. Next is to close the miners. So for the flap folders, you're going to want to use the length of the case is going to be the same setting as this red setting. Then there's a adjustment here. This back roller on the head is set for the width of the case. So whatever the width of the case is, set this yellow adjustment for the width of the case. And that's it. That's how you set up a new product.